Speaker, obviously.
Yes. A historic moment when we saw the two of them behind the president at his address to Congress last year.
Exactly.
Obviously, this year, it continues to resonate with so many people across the country. Andrea Mitchell, it is so wonderful to have you. I know you have a lot more reporting to do, so we will release you from the bounds of this set, so thank you.
We'll all be in it together.
We'll all be in it together. I want to go as we keep an eye on this live shot, too. Our colleague Garrett Haake, we told you 20 minutes ago that the next time we'd see him, he'd have a headset on. I actually don't even know if we have a visible shot, Garrett, because those reporters who is up above watching the floor action. Garrett, if you can hear me, friend, tell me what you see.
Hey, Hallie. Yeah, when you were referencing the bird watchers with binoculars, I was one of them up here in the upper deck, keeping an eye on the floor with the other reporters here. We are behind the dais, so I can see everything in the chamber except the president, where he will be speaking. We're watching these lawmakers come in, and I was listening to your conversation with Andrea about masks, and from where I'm sitting, I don't see a single lawmaker wearing one, and I can tell you that was a subject of much discussion among Democrats today. The Office of the Attending Physicians, which sets the rules for this kind of thing, only changed their guidance over the weekend, and a lot of lawmakers who'd gotten very used to the House rules requiring them everywhere in the House side of the complex. We're very much in active discussion about whether they would be wearing them today, and I think probably a lot of folks took their cues from Speaker Pelosi saying that she wouldn't be doing so. Certainly, Republicans had been agitating for those mask rules to change for quite some time, but now you see how it's Democrats and Republicans alike going maskless. And the other thing that's certainly clear from my vantage point is the colors in the room. You know, a lot of times fashion is used to send a message at the State of the Union, whether it's wearing all black for Black Lives Matter, wearing it all white, as we saw a couple of years ago in honor of the suffragettes. Today, it is yellow and blue for the Ukrainian flag, not just those pins, but lots of members wearing scarves, jackets, yellow ties, kind of digging in their closets to make sure they have something to support the Ukrainian people.
We're looking at this wide shot here, Garrett, and you can really see it, right? The pops of yellow and blue and some of these sartorial choices. And I'm told that they were handing out, actually, those Ukrainian flag pins, lapel pins, prior to House Speaker Pelosi gaveling in the chamber and the arrival of these senators as well. One of the interesting things here, too, you know, we are in an era, and I'm not rattling the earth when I say this, of partisanship. Garrett, you know this. We have a 50-50 divided Senate, you know. And yet, one of the things that's interesting when you see the Senate members interacting with the House members, the Senate is known as a bit more of a collegial chamber, right? It's known as a place that's a little bit, you know, it has that collegiality in a way that sometimes the House does not, as we look at Senator Warren there shaking hands, too. And that plays out in an interesting way in some of these moments where we are watching free interaction, right? Everybody being able to greet everybody else on the floor.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I was talking to a lawmaker earlier today who was bemoaning this point that the lawmakers themselves don't interact as much as they used to. They don't socialize with their spouses. They don't talk in the hallways as much as they might even have done pre-COVID. So an event like this with so many on the floor together at the same time, an opportunity for them to chat across, not just across the aisle, but across the chambers. I'm looking right now at Mitt Romney and Joe Manchin standing together on the Republican side of the House floor, having a chat with a couple of Republican House members who it is entirely possible they've never met. And so this kind of cross-pollination here is, I think, probably a really useful thing for this body.
One of the things that our viewers are seeing right now is one of the boxes with the Ukrainian ambassador. That shot just went away, but Jeremy Bash, you know, a significant guest, obviously.
Yeah, she's going to get a standing ovation from both sides of the aisle. She represents, obviously, Vladimir Zelensky, and so President Biden is going to point to her and ask the country to rally around Ukraine.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those moments, especially because there's so few guests, right? That oftentimes the president looks to and tries to make points around policy angles. But this is going to be a big moment for both Democrats and Republicans and this country to say we stand firmly behind Ukraine.
There's so much yellow and blue in the chamber tonight that it's a visual reminder of just how much red, white, and blue is here, but also the idea that Americans really want to rally behind this country, and also that the support for the Ukrainian people has gone up as we've seen that country start to make Molotov cocktails. We've seen that country, grandmothers doing target practice, ready to defend their country. It's a reminder that this is a country that is trying to stand behind another one a world away.
There's also always a question that I think people ask when a moment like this happens, which is, with all of these powerful people in one room, who is the designated survivor, right? That's sort of the language that's often used, the member of the president's cabinet who stays back. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo is it this year, as we will see, more members of the president's cabinet coming in.
Yeah, and she'll watch it probably from a safe, secure location, and obviously they'll run through a number of drills with her if she's obviously has to undertake anything in an emergency. But, it's a little bit of a Tom Clancy scenario, if you will, a throwback. But, yes, they keep one cabinet member out. But look, as we see, all members of the Senate, all members of the House, the Joint Chiefs, the Supreme Court, the cabinet, they're all in one room. It never happens but one night in America.
Not all the Supreme Court justices are expected to be there, though. The last time we saw them all attend a State of the Union, I think, was 1972. We know that Chief Justice John Roberts has attended the State of the Union, I think, every year since he became a justice. That doesn't always happen. Some intentionally stay away because this has become, frankly, a partisan moment, right? This is a political speech.
Yeah, and we heard earlier today, Senator Marco Rubio, somebody who's been very active on Twitter on Ukraine, has decided because of COVID testing requirements, he was going to skip tonight and not be there in person. I think
Say what?
I think this is one. Yes,
Really?
Yes. This is one of the, to me, stunning things being in the Capitol, to see this many members not wearing a mask. It had really become one of those partisan things where Democrats were still wearing masks, Republicans weren't. Even in the House floor, up until the most recent changes, Republicans were getting fined on a regular basis for not wearing those masks.
Our friend and colleague Kelly O'Donnell texts me from her post at the White House that one of the folks that we're seeing is Marcy Kaptur of Ohio in the blue and yellow sash, pointing out a lot of Ukrainians in her district.
And she is the co-chair, I believe, of the Ukrainian caucus, which is why she's there with that kind of statement.
And even as you talked about the idea of unity being a vibe we can't quite put our hands on, part of the reason is because when I talk to Democrats, they also want, as they want to rally around the idea of democracy, they want to see a couple gut punches to the Republicans, frankly, from President Biden. I was talking to one Democrat who said that one of the best moments in the last few weeks of the Biden presidency was when President Biden had the longest presidential press conference in history. And in that, he said, I don't know what Republicans stand for. They want to hear that theme again. And the president really laying out that the country has so many challenges. Democrats have, they think, the best solutions, and Republicans, they think, don't even have a plan to get started there.
The State of the Union has changed so much over the years, right? Not to date myself, I'm very young, let me just say that. but when I was growing up, there weren't a lot of other options if you didn't want to watch the State of the Union speech, right? That's changed now, but it's still a huge deal, covered by every major television network across the country, as is, of course, the opposing party's response here. And it's going to be the headline in major papers all across the country tomorrow morning. If the White House had its druthers, Anna, what's that headline?
I think it has to be something around strong leadership, unity for the country, Biden leading. I mean, they want this to, they've kind of had that reset moment. They've been talking about that he wants to be more forceful, that he wants to have that kind of statesman leadership that has had some foibles when it comes to Afghanistan pullout and some of these other issues, whether it's inflation. Is it steady leadership?
And I'm sort of looking for the State of the Union is resilient, because I think that's a word that showcases the fact that we're still in a tough situation and people are pulling out, but we're strong and we can go forward.
Controversial Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene there, who's been embroiled over the last few days for a different issue. We're going to listen to Speaker Pelosi here for a moment.
The chair appoints as members of the committee on the part of the House to escort the President of the United States into the chambers. The gentleman from Maryland, Mr. Hoyer.